Hey everybody. It's a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful Saturday afternoon out here in Georgia. And instead of looking at some purely Filipino stuff, uh, we're going to take a look at some Western martial arts ideas. In particular, we're going to look at the back cut. Now, most of you are probably familiar with the back cut as it relates to a Bowie knife. And for those of you that aren't, the back cut is cutting with the back of the knife, the swedge point right here, the swedge into the point. Originally, as best as we can tell, and most scholars agree that the movement actually comes out of European saber fencing. And slowly, the idea is relatively simple. From a guard with a knife, well, generally a larger knife, although this can work with a smaller knife, what we're doing is we're taking our thumb and we're pointing it at the ground in a cat's pawing motion. So what we're doing is we're going around whatever our opponent is putting in our way, and we're hitting it with the point and this sharpened back edge. Now with the saber, standard saber block was here. This was to protect the side of the body. Well, it was found with the back cut that by attacking on what we would call angle one in the Filipino martial arts, and at the last moment turning the blade over, you end up going around that shot or around that guard, and the point ends up hitting your target. And it will open up a chest. It's a great thing to go after an eye. It's very deceptive when you're going for, like, say, a wrist. And it's a very simple motion. It's a cat pawing at things. Now you'll see this work just as well with a smaller knife. The idea, instead of a big slash or even a more tighter rotary cutting style of usage, we take the point and snap it like that. You'll see that same theory with reverse grip knives in the eye pluck, where you're flicking the point of the knife. It's not a power driving shot into your target, it's a flick. And the sharpness of the knife does all the work. So how does this apply to us? Well, the idea of a front edge and a back edge is really useful when we start looking at getting around people's blocks. We call it in Callis Americano cheating the angles of your opponent's defense. And with a stick, it is almost identical to doing it with a Bowie knife. Although there are some things you have to do to compensate for the extra length of the weapon. So what we're looking at is on an angle one, as the stick comes forward, the stick rotates over. So if we have a front edge and a back edge, what we're hitting with is the back edge. And you'll see here on the dummy how if I take a standard angle one, I'm hitting here, flat to what would be my opponent's shoulder, neck joint. However, if I rotate the stick over, I now hit behind. So instead of here, we're hitting here. Or from a little lower, here. As you can see, there's a lot of snap in that shot. Now you got to be careful about your elbow. Never ever throw this shot with an arm fully extended. Otherwise, you can damage your elbow. So it's a really good idea from about this range right here, because it's going to allow you to go around your opponent's defense and hit them. If you step deeper, you can actually hit them in their back. And if that's the back of the neck, the back of the head, all the better. Works also really well for hitting down low on the legs. especially from something off, like, say, a high roof block where you drop it around your back redondo, and then you hit low. Now with a stick, we're going for knees, the actual joint of the knee, the shins, hard targets, joints. You can take a pretty solid whack against meat, but bone strikes are much more disabling. When we change from a stick to an actual edged weapon, we start seeing some really neat stuff. One of the first, and if you look at historical European fencing, you'll occasionally run across something called the coup de Jarnac, or Jarnac's cut. Today, what that phrase actually is used for colloquially, saying you're a backstabber. But the reason that is because it was such a tricky idea. And what he did during this duel that gave it that name was he actually cut the hamstring of his opponent. Now, nobody's exactly sure how he made that cut. Some people say that he simply went off to the side, thrust forward, and did a draw cut behind his opponent's leg. Other people think it was a movement much like what I just showed you, where you're cutting in and then pulling out. The other thing this does when we start dealing with actual bladed weapons instead of sticks, we can start looking at changing our angles instead of big, deep cuts, or even cuts to get around our opponent's defense. We can start looking at it as ways of getting to their arms. We're all familiar with defanging the snake. So if my opponent's weapon is here and it's coming at me, it is, instead of a step here to cut that limb, I can step this way, still going to my weak side, my left, their right, and allowing me to jam their arm once I've accomplished my cut. We can take our weapon and bring it to here. And now the edge is what does the damage. With the stick, it would be an impact. Well, with the sword of this length, a machete, something like that, we're getting that nice, good, solid impact strike, and it also sets us up for a really nice draw cut. The other option that you can do with it is target the eyes of the opponent. And it is, again, very deceptive. As I showed you on a video a little while ago, I showed you a combo where we went here, here, and then here. Okay. We can do that slightly differently, and we can throw the point at their eye from under their guard here. Very, very deceptive. And now, once their guard has come up, we cut the body, and we cut the body again. Or we go back at the head, or whatever's over. So, that motion, again, is simply rolling to the back. The way this was originally taught to me was kind of humorous, but I think it's a very good explanation of the dynamics. First, you serve a bowl of soup. Then you see what time it is. Serve the bowl of soup, see what time it is. If you get much more advanced with this and can develop the timing, we work into incredibly deep offside to the body shots that come over and around our opponent's defenses. So, let's say we come off a roof block, we pin their body, And now they're starting to assume that this shot is coming at their head. This angle 1 is a very nice place to go. But instead of bringing it to here, we take our elbow and put our elbow up over our ear and drop this tip down into their body. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are some things to play with. It's a different style of movement than you're probably used to. But one of the things that's amazing about this technique is it changes all the places you can hit. And if you get comfortable with it, throwing it with power, it allows you to compensate for if your footwork isn't quite right. And what I mean by that is I step to the side and I'm trying to hit my opponent, but they have the ability to block me. So, boom, they get that block. Great. I throw it again. Boom, they get that block. I've set up the pattern. Now the third time, I throw and I roll it over. And now I'm behind them and I've cut the tricep, I've cut the neck, wherever I decide to put that point. So, hope this makes sense. Get out there and play with it. And surprise some of your friends with it. Y'all have a good one.